going? Okay. Welcome to Victoria Knits. I'm Victoria. Out on another hike. Another part of the Whitefish Trail. This is the Beaver Lakes trailhead. And I think we're probably doing about a 5-mile loop again. We didn't mean to, but I think that's what's happening. I'll put down at the bottom exactly how far we have hiked today. We're almost finished. And today is February 2nd, 2020, right? It's pretty crazy. So I will show you, first I'll show you some of the hike we did. Oh, yeah. You see her stomp her little foot. And then we'll get to some knitting I brought with me. But first I want to talk about the Chinese New Year that just passed on January 25th. I probably wouldn't even have been aware of it, but my friend Janet brought it up, and they always try to celebrate the Chinese New Year. And so Kim and I ended up going out for dinner at a place called the China Wall, I think. Chinese Wall. How come I can't remember? Yeah, I think that was it. Chinese Wall in the town of Whitefish. It was fun. It was nice to get out. What I thought was really cute was Russell has there are two students in Russell's school who are of Chinese heritage, and they gave him this sweet little gift, which I thought was really nice. If you've looked up and read it all about the Chinese New Year, you know that one of the things they like to do is wear red, and they give out red envelopes with money. But the parents of these children said they didn't think money was appropriate, so they put in a couple of cute little candies. I thought that was really sweet, and Russell really, really liked it. And you should probably look up your Chinese zodiac sign. I thought mine was pretty interesting. Mine's the goat. It says I'm supposed to be amicable, gentle, and compassionate. People born in the year of the goat are serene and calm and tend to have fewer health problems. They should get out among nature and commune with the great outdoors. Fresh air, trees, and sunshine will do wonders for their health. Goats should have a regular schedule for meals and keep their sleep and waking times consistent. And famous goat people include Bill Gates and Steve Jobs. That was pretty cool. All right, let's take a look at what I've been working on. I finished my Blaise, I think that's how she pronounces it, my Blaise socks by Jan Swarbrick. They turned out so pretty. And you can see how I did some stockinette down the side in between the front and the back of the pattern. I think it turned out really well. I just added that little bit to it. I've already talked about the yarn in my last podcast, so I'm not going to go on about that Yakagani yarn, but I will put it across the bottom here. And thank you so much, Jan, for letting me test knit this pattern. I really, really liked it. I think they're really pretty. They will go in my Christmas box of socks. And speaking of Jan, another thing I finished recently of Jan's is this cowl I have on. It is called the Arctic Seas cowl. Now, you're not going to be able to see it very well here, but I will insert a picture of it. I really like it. It's another test knit by Jan. Neither one of these patterns has been released yet, but if you follow her on either Ravelry or Instagram at Jan's Crafty Crochet, you'll know when she releases these patterns. I really like this cowl. You can see how the design on it looks like waves. I spent 2 days knitting this. It went pretty quickly, and I will tell you why. It's because both my grandsons have been gone for a while. Their dad took them to Boise to visit. He's got family there, and I'm sure he wanted to see his family, and he wanted the boys to see his family. So they made that 11.5-hour drive, the three of them together. And Chris said that Russell was just excellent, that he did such a great job. He was not complaining. He just really hung in there and did really well. And as you can imagine, sitting in a car seat is not the easiest thing to do for 11.5 hours for a 3.5-year-old. Now, Nico was a slightly different story. Chris said there were binkies being flung from the back seat to the front seat, and there was some considerable whining being done. It's hard to reason with a 1.5-year-old. But my friend Sandra sent the boys each a gift that she made. And I'll show you this one. This one is little Yoda. Is that not the cutest thing ever? I don't often show crocheted items on my podcast because I don't crochet. So this is a little extra for you. Sandra made this, and by the way, this little robe comes off, and he's got a little pair of pants on. This, I was going to say recipe. This pattern is a paid pattern from Yarn Two Together or Karina Christine Designs. It's called Baby Alien 7 on Ravelry. I will link to it. Now, this isn't the only thing that Sandra sent. And by the way, Sandra, this one's probably going to be for Nico because Russell claimed the other one. But my whole family and I decided that I will be responsible for holding it for Nico for a while because it's so adorable. So it kind of sits with me on my little knitting area. That is the cutest thing. So I went to look for the toy that she crocheted for Russell yesterday, and guess what? I couldn't find it anywhere in the house. I looked through his bin of stuffy toys. It wasn't there, and he really likes it, and I couldn't figure out where it was. And I asked Vanessa, and she goes, "Oh, he took that one with him to Boise because he likes it that much." So when he gets back, I'll have him on the podcast, and we'll talk about that one. Thank you so much, Sandra. Really cute. And the last thing I brought with me, last December, I bought this project bag that now has snow on it at a craft shop. And it was full of this yarn. It was full of skeins of this yarn in 4 different colors. There were 16 skeins of that inside. And she was selling the whole thing, including the project bag, for $25. And I recognize a bargain when I see one. So I went ahead and got it. And what I made with it was this cardigan. So I knew it needed to be something for Christmas. I knew that Jan and Linda were still holding their cardigan make-along. So I decided I would jump on that again. I really had fun making this. It only took like a week. Yeah, all the details are on my Ravelry group, my Ravelry page, and you can look that up to see what size I made, what needle I used, and all the details. I really enjoyed it. The cardigan make-along is now over, but it was fun, and you know what? I really enjoyed having the make-along because it really pushed me to get this done by January 31st. So, you know, those make-alongs do have their place. I did tell Linda I'm not going to be one of your winners because I don't want to be, but it still drove me to get this done. Anyway, am I ready for next Christmas? Coming Christmas? Yes, I am. I really like it. What I'm also excited about is Vanessa and I are going to go eat. I'm starving. I was hoping there was going to be a lot of pretty scenery on the way. Occasionally we could see gorgeous snow-covered high peaks through the trees, but we could never get a good picture of them. You've seen, I've already showed the best views we had for today. But it was really nice to get out. We had almost no one on the trail with us, so that was really great. It's been a good day. It's been a beautiful day, and it's been a great hike. Hi. Today is February 8th, and Kim and I are up at the Isaac Walden Inn in the town of Essex again. We came up here a little over a year ago. I showed that on episode 30, and we're back. Kim made a reservation this time. We spent the night last night. He made a reservation because yesterday was our anniversary, our wedding anniversary. So it was really nice to come up here again. And I will show you some of the stuff we did up here. I'll tell you a little bit about the hotel. But if you've been watching this podcast, you've seen a lot about it. It was built in 1939 for use by the service personnel. And at the time it cost $40,000. But it was an oversized inn in an undersized town. And in 1965 it sold for just $5,000. Then in 1995 it underwent a renovation that added bathrooms to every guest room. And now it's a popular hotel for train enthusiasts. And people come up here to snowshoe and cross-country ski around on there's a lot of trails around here. I'll show you some pics of our room. It's really nice. They use a lot of railroad themes in everything, as you can see. We had a really great view out our window, which I really enjoyed. They also had a sauna, and I'll insert a little video of that.
Okay, it got good and hot real fast. How long did it take it to get to 100, you think?
20 minutes.
Huh?
20 minutes.
20 minutes maybe to 100 degrees. That's a big sauna. A little bit bigger than ours.
2 feet longer than yours is.
The bench I'm laying on is a little too narrow for me. And the light, way too bright for me. That's a big unit. That puts out the heat. And Kim's upset because there's no steam. There's no way to make steam. Yeah, got a real good sweat. It's nice to try out somebody else's sauna.
Sure.
I'm glad we did this.
Mm-hmm. Me too.
They also had a hot tub. They have a really nice bar. They have a restaurant. They have a gift shop, of course, and a really nice lounge. So it's been a really good trip up here. I brought one item to show that I've been knitting on, and it is the Gypsophilia sock pattern by Susan Hardy. Now, I won this pattern from L&S Crafts from Lorraine. Her podcast is L&S Crafts. She has an L&S Crafts podcast. Thank you, Lorraine, and thank you, Susan Hardy. I'm really enjoying this pattern. To knit it, I am using the minis I got from Beth, who is Shadows and Pearls. And by the way, she just recently started her own podcast, Shadows and Pearls. Linda at the Joey Scarf podcast coordinated a mini exchange at Christmas time, and Beth sent hers to me. So what I've done is, they were all supposed to be 20-gram minis, so I've taken her minis and divided them up into 10 grams. So I'm going to make matching socks with them. And I'm really enjoying the pattern. But what I really want to point out is that I've watched, I'm sure we're all aware of the Hey Brown Berry podcast with Mars. She has a tutorial she does which shows you when you are knitting with minis or you're doing a scrappy project, she shows you how to weave in those ends as you go instead of saving them all for the end and driving yourself crazy having to weave them all in. So I've been doing that. She also shows you how to avoid the jog when you change colors. Now you can't really see it on this sock much because of the pattern, But I've been enjoying doing both those things. I'm looking forward to not having a lot of ends to weave in at the end. Although it didn't work when I did my fish lips kiss heel. I couldn't get that the way she ties it in. I couldn't get that to work there. But that could just be me. It might work there anyway. As you can see, it is showing like crazy up here. And we have a ways to hike back. I'll show you pics of what we hiked yesterday and pics of what we're hiking today. We took the train up here just like we did last year, and we're gonna take the train back tonight. And then I will have more to talk about at that point, but I want to keep it fairly short up here when the wind has kicked up, and we have quite a ways to go. I think that's it.
I get choo-choo train. I'm connected.
We are connected. Do you know what today is? What?
Valentine's.
That's right. It is Valentine's Day, isn't it? And we've, let's see, you got back from Boise, didn't you, on a trip with your dad? And Poopaw and I got back from, a trip too. And what happened on your trip?
Snowstorm.
A snowstorm, huh?
And we had to go, and then it was really windy, and then we had to go on an elevator, and then a man just gave us toys, and then we had to go to a hotel room on an elevator.
That's right. You had to go to a hotel and an elevator, and someone gave you some toys, and you had to spend the night there, didn't you? Because it was too dangerous to drive.
Oh, yeah.
And then you got home, and then you and Nico were sick. And then your mom and I got sick. Seems like everybody's been sick, huh? But we're feeling a little better, right? And do you want to show what you got your mom for Valentine's Day? What'd you get her?
Flowers.
Yeah, these beautiful, beautiful flowers. Wow, those are pretty, aren't they? Whoa.
And they're so
Those are big. And I brought you back this train whistle. You want to show them how it works? It's pretty nice.
I'm pretty good.
You are pretty good with it. And so I wanted to show the other toy that Sandra made. Can you show them your dinosaur? This is the other toy Sandra made, and Russell really likes it, huh? Does it have a name?
Spinosaurus.
Spinosaurus. And this dinosaur, the pattern is from thefriendlyredfox.com. It's a free pattern. And the name is the Friendly Dino. And Russell really, really likes this dinosaur. You had to take it to Boise with you, didn't you? Because you liked it so much. And what did we just do? We went out and looked for duck eggs, huh? How many did we find?
One.
Just one. But we're all starting to feel better, aren't we? Oh, yeah. It's been a tough few days. But we are all surviving, finally. Thanks, Russell. Thanks for being on my podcast. You say bye, everybody?
Bye, everybody.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
That's nice, Russell. Thank you. Going? Okay. Hi. Today is February 18th. And Kim and I are taking a short walk on a new trail to us. It's called the Swan River Trail, something like that. I'll put it across the bottom. It's just out of Big Fork, and as you can see, it gives you a magnificent view of the Swan Mountain Range. We had to walk. It says it's a 2-mile long hike. But it's very flat, so it was really relaxing, and that's about all I had energy for after that little bout of the flu I had. I did want to say that I was holding on to Nico's little Yoda toy that Sandra made, but I have given it back to him, and I'll insert a few pictures here of him playing with it. It is so cute. So since having the flu, I haven't done as much knitting as I would have liked. That was quite the flu, and it lasted a while. You remember the first of the Gypsophilia socks I finished? I started the second one, and I'm going pretty well on this, but you won't notice it yet, but here's something about this one. They're not going to entirely match. I guess I didn't wind my yarn up properly. They're going to be a few rows off. Maybe they'll be okay. Well, they will be okay. You know what? They will be okay. I'm going to go with it. They will be okay. I'm going to go with it because they're for me, and it's not that big a deal. They feel really nice and squishy. The Gypsophilia sock pattern is really nice, and it's just it just has a really good feel to it. I wanted to talk about what makes sock qualify for my Christmas box of socks. For me, it means either it's a Christmas themed yarn or a Christmas themed pattern, or else it was yarn that was given to me for Christmas, or a pattern given to me around Christmas. Those are the things I'm using to qualify what goes in my Christmas box of socks. And you may have noticed in the our trip to Essex, Kim's hat. Yeah, I finished that another February hat for him by Kate Gagnon Osborne. I'm really liking that pattern. I think it looked really good on him. I think he liked it too. The yarn is again that Vitalana Ambient Worsted colorway Whiskey, because Knit Crate sends 2 skeins, and I thought they looked perfect for the one for Britt that I sent Britt and the one for Kim. I'm going to show up a close-up of the button I put on both Britt and Kim's hats, and that was purchased on Etsy from Reed's Engravables, and you can have your own, you can customize what you have printed on those, so I thought that was really cute. I have also gotten back to a work in progress. I started this last September. This is the Malin Tea by Cecilia Losada, and I hadn't gotten very far on it, but I decided, you know, people have been talking a lot about getting things off their needles, and I think that's important too, so I thought I would try to do that. I am really enjoying this. The yarn is Juniper Moon Farm Harriet Fine Lakeville. The brown is Tennessee Whiskey by Big Sky Yarn Co. And this one and this one was in a sock set from Teal Torch Knits, the Miss Marple sock set. I got both those. This looks like it's white, but it's actually a very light blue with some sprinkles. Now I'm trying to use up some leftover yarns in this this shirt, and I also talked about, I thought I would make it long sleeved, but as you can see, it's pretty lacy on the center, so I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to stick with the short sleeves as the pattern calls for and use it for a spring, you know, warmer temp sweater. I think I'm liking it. I really love this pattern up here. My daughter said, she came by while I was knitting on it, and she said, "Oh, Mom, I really love that." And I'm like, "Really? I wasn't sure about all the colors." And she says, "No, they're perfect." It's always nice when somebody else thinks your stuff looks good, isn't it? It's nice to have that that little input, kind of confirm things for you. So I'm trying not to keep too many works in progress going. I have that pair of socks and the Malin Tea. I think that's pretty much what I'm working on right now. But Jan of Jan's Crafty Crochet invited me to start this little mystery knit along, and it's for a gnome. And this is how far we are so far. It is the Mystery Gnome Knit Along 3. Gnome is Where You Hang Your Hat by Sarah Shira. So this is the hat. Look at the little tiny ear flaps. This is how far we've gotten so far. She puts out a clue every few days, and so it would be really easy to jump on board if you feel like it. But I think this is going to be super cute, right? That's a pretty cute little hat. And I'm using some of the Christmas minis I got from Beth to knit this with. So I thought I'd throw in something interesting about Montana. I found in this Montana Quarterly magazine. I bought this because it has an article, Boot Prints in the Yak, by Chris Latray, my friend. That's not what I'm going to read to you, though. I'm going to read you this short article. It's less than a page long, and then it's called Little White Crosses, story and photograph by Scott McMillian. The old bridge over the Yellowstone River just east of Livingston was a scary thing, tall and narrow and potholed. We crossed it every Sunday when I was a kid, coming home from my grandparents' house in Wilsall. The scariest part was the set of 5 white crosses on the east approach to the bridge. They told us that 5 people had died there. The crosses almost seemed close enough to touch from the car window. It was a family that died, my mother told me. a mother and all her babies. There are many such crosses around the state, erected by volunteers at the American Legion of Montana to mark where somebody has died in a vehicle wreck. No other state has such a program, according to Greg Harback, Fatality Marker Coordinator for Legion Post 14 in Bozeman. The program has existed since 1953, and there are between 2,300 and 2,500 of the crosses along Montana highways. That's only a fraction of all the highway deaths, but it's enough to get the point across. They are numerous enough to notice, infrequent enough to startle, the Legion says on its website. Each of them notes a place of loss and grief and shock. Somebody lost somebody they loved there, Harbeck says. But seeing them might save some lives. That's why they're there. The goal is to urge people to be safe in our small town with long streets, said Harbeck, who spent 24 years in the U.S. Marine Corps. Put down the cell phone, slow down, pay attention. The Legion and the state of Montana refer to the crosses as fatality markers. They aren't meant to be memorials, but people often treat them as such, leaving flowers or other mementos. Somebody does so with the 5 crosses near Livingston, marking deaths that occurred on Thanksgiving Day in 1957. There's a teddy bear there too, watching the traffic. The Legion asks only that if people leave things on the markers, they don't obscure the cross, which is meant to alert people that driving is a serious responsibility, that this could be a bad spot in the road. For some people, looking at the crosses is too much to bear, especially if they must drive every day past a grim reminder of a lost loved one. In those cases, the markers are removed in a nanosecond, Harback said. Legion members rely on news clippings and a solid relationship with the Highway Patrol when it's time to place new markers. Though not every Legion post can participate, the goal is to visit each cross every year, see if it needs repairs, maybe whack down the weeds. The Montana Department of Transportation has guidelines that spell out sizes and materials for the markers and where they are to be placed safely. They're meant to be visible, but not obtrusive. Still, the message can be powerful. The bridge near Livingston was replaced a few years ago. It's safer now, but you wouldn't want to tumble off it, as Marjorie Lois Woods and her children did 62 years ago on icy roads in a blinding snowstorm. She was only 28. Her oldest child was 6. It took a week to find Marjorie's body in the icy river. When the new bridge was complete, the crosses went back up. I still slow down every time I pass them. And I'm going to insert some crosses that are along a couple of the roads that we drive. Some of them, a lot of the markers are just very plain, but a lot of them have some very specific to that person memorials attached to them. I find them pretty interesting, and I'm really glad I read that article because now I know exactly what I'm looking at when I drive by one of those. All right, and to go along with that article, a new blog post arrived from David Kane on Raptitude.com, whose blog I've referenced on my podcast before, and I thought I'd read that to you because it really spoke to me. As a kid, whenever I stayed for supper at certain friends' houses, I wasn't sure what to do when they prayed. My family didn't say grace, but I knew a bit about the ritual from reading the family circus. I knew you were supposed to look down and say amen at the end, so I did. I was familiar with the idea of God, how he made the world and watched over it and all that, but I found it unlikely he would intervene in the pedestrian matters of cooking and groceries. Still, it made as much sense as Santa Claus and the impossible logistical feats attributed to him, so I went through the motions in the way kids do. By the time I became an edgy teenager, I'd learned from Usenet news groups that religion had caused all the ills of society. So I went from playing along with the grace ritual to silently resisting. I still looked down at my hands, but I didn't interlace my fingers and refused to say amen. It's embarrassing to remember that phase. Grace isn't really religious, a formerly religious co-worker said to me years later. We had picked up junk food to eat on the drive to the next job site. It was probably the unhealthiest meal possible. Energy drinks and 7-Eleven butter tarts. And I had joked that we should say grace. Yeah, you don't have to believe the food came from the Lord. All they're saying is, before we eat this food, let's remember that we could have no food. This might not be so, in other words. This thing you have, this meal, this bed, these clothes, this friend, if it's possible to have it, it's possible not to have it. If you take a moment to imagine not having it, the good fortune of having it is no longer lost on you. His clear thoughts on the matter helped me understand what was so compelling about certain obscure gratitude practices I'd meanwhile discovered on my own. They're all based on imagining nice things disappearing. Some nights, once I was comfortably in bed, I would imagine my bed disappearing around me and dropping me onto the bare floor. A moment later, the whole house would go, depositing me in my underwear onto the cold, wet grass. I'd imagine the scenario in vivid detail. The dirt and the dampness, the dead grass stuck to my arms. After a minute or so, the daydream would break, and the warmth and comfort of the covers, the happy reality of where I really was, would hit me like a truck. I'd do this on a smaller scale too, such as imagining my socks disappearing, just long enough to feel my clammy bare feet against the damp insoles of my boots. A moment later, I'd drop the fantasy and discover anew just how much comfort a cheap pair of sports socks was adding to my life in that moment. I still do this. With socks, sweaters, walls, it's just one way to get your mind to collide with the essential truth behind any genuine experience of gratitude. This might not be so. If you do the same exercise, not with socks, but with your loved ones, the effect is so strong it might make you cry. And I can attest to that. If I could impress a single one of my weird ideas on the people of the world, it would be this practice, which I've written about many times. You'll need a moment in which you're with a loved one and they're talking to someone else, doing a crossword, or otherwise not directly engaging with you. Whatever they're doing, quietly observe them doing it, paying attention to their unique mannerisms, voice, and presence. Here's the part that will make you cry. Try to see this moment as though it's actually in the past, and this person is gone now. You're remembering this one ordinary moment in perfect detail from that precious window of time when your lives still overlapped. It's important that it's an ordinary moment because those are the kinds of moments that often seem neutral in value, abundant and unremarkable. You might be tempted to spend it checking your phone. But if your mind can find that place, even for just a second, where you see that this might not be so, you'll break that sense that nothing special is happening. Then there will be a moment when you come back to reality. And the reality is that the precious fleeting time when you got to be near this person, the time you'd do anything to revisit, is happening right now. Amen. So I hope you enjoyed that. I really did. David Kane's blog, raptitude.com, is definitely worth a follow. I get comes in my email. And so I will link to that below, along with everything else I talk about in this podcast. Also, if you want to find me, I am Victoria Jean on Ravelry, and on Instagram, I'm Victoria Jean W. Or you can email me at vjwilliams54@gmail.com. So I wanted to talk about what I've been watching on TV. I've been watching Murdoch Mysteries. What is there, 13 seasons of that thing? Yeah, I've watched them all. I really liked it. I can't remember who recommended Murdoch Mysteries to me, but it's been a lot of fun. I wasn't sure about it when I first started the show, but yeah, I quickly became a fan. There's a lot of good characters. Who doesn't love George Crabtree on that show? Holy cow, he might almost be my favorite character. Although Inspector Watts or Detective Watts has turned into a favorite too. Anyway, I highly recommend that show. It's fairly lighthearted most of the time. It takes place in Toronto. Now, if I knew more about Canadian history, I would pick up more of what's going on in that show. But they do like to include some Canadian history, which I find really interesting. William Shatner appeared on one of the episodes as Mark Twain. That was fun to watch. As far as podcasts go, I've been watching Mint Rain that's Caitlin in Michigan. She has a yarn dyeing business, and she recently started a podcast. I also like But I'm Knitting with Ramona Lee. She's up in Canada. She's fun to watch. And of course, Andrea, the Cat Lady podcast. I always like to catch up with her. She is thinking about starting a yarn dyeing business, and she's pretty excited about that. So I am too. I think good for her. And Aquila, a Lefty Knitters podcast. I'm still going through the box of stuff she sent. She included a lot of great stuff in that package. So there isn't going to be an off the porch segment because nothing's really been happening off our front porch or back porch. There's been the few deer, but I'm tired of seeing them, so I imagine you guys are too. But I thought it might be fun to talk about that calendar that my friend Jan of Jan's Crafty Crochet sent me for Christmas from Guernsey. And we could call this the way, way, way off the porch segment. So I've been looking up a few little things about the island of Guernsey. It was created due to rising seas in the English Channel. And there is evidence of human presence dating back to around 5000 BC on that island. During the Second World War, Guernsey was occupied by the Germans, and during the 1940s, repairs were made to the damage caused by the occupation. Right now, tourism is one of their main resources. They also raise tomatoes and cut flowers. So I thought we'd take it month by month. I've already missed January, but we'll look back at January. The picture for January was this one of the island of Liu. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm doing my best. And I looked up a little info about it. Liu is a small island just off the west coast of Guernsey and can be accessed by a causeway at low tide for about 2 weeks every month. It is owned by the states of Guernsey and is used mostly now for tourism. The island is a nature conservation site due to a number of endangered species of birds that breed there. Historically, it was used as a site to gather seaweed to be used for fertilizer. So that was January's picture. And then February's picture was Le Mont Saint. But a Google search of that just brings up a garage and car sales at this garage. So as much as I can tell, Lamont Saint is an area of Guernsey near the sea and very pretty in the spring. And I would love to visit the island of Guernsey sometime. I like to do some armchair traveling because there are certain places I'll probably never get to, and Guernsey is probably one of them. But gosh, it looks so appealing. So I thought we would go through that calendar month by month and talk a little bit about each picture as the month comes up. So what's going to follow is, let's see, Vanessa's been teaching some yoga classes in our little town of Marion, some free yoga classes with a friend of hers, Yulia. I have not attended yet because frankly I have not been brave enough to go, but I promise I will. And I'm going to throw in some pictures of her class here. Vanessa took me to Whitefish, and we attended a singing crystal bowls meditation. Now, if you've never been to one, Vanessa took a couple videos at it, and I'm going to insert those. It was very interesting. I was a little iffy about it. I like meditating. It happened in it took place in a salt, what they call a salt room. So it's full of, what's that kind of salt called?
Himalayan pink?
Oh yeah, thank you, Kim. Himalayan pink salt. That's the name of that salt. It's a beautiful room. You actually sit in the salt, and then they actually pump salt through the ventilation system for the first 10 minutes of the meditation. Anyway. Anyway, I really enjoyed it. I thought what was interesting was there was one bowl she played that I hated, that I just desperately hated. And I thought that was really interesting, and we talked to her about that a little bit after the class. So I'm going to throw in some of the few little videos of the boys because they're so popular, and
we go Dominoes? No.
From,
Ben.
is he your friend? Is he your friend?
Yeah.
I said, Kim and I usually do not buy each other anniversary presents because we just don't. Our anniversary, Kim's birthday, and Valentine's Day all falls on the same week, within the same week. So we usually just go out to dinner or something. This time, Kim made that reservation in Essex, and we used that to celebrate all three. It was really nice. But he surprised me before we left with some homemade bath salts. I was really impressed with that. He made them in secret when I wasn't home. He looked up a little recipe for them online, and it was really good. If he can find the recipe, I'll insert a link to that down below because I think it's really good. I really enjoyed using them. And so while we were in Essex, I bought him this pair of socks because I thought it was really pretty. I was looking for something to get for the boys, and I got Russell that train whistle, but this pair of socks was only $10, and I just couldn't pass it up because it was really pretty, and they're very thick. So I got that for Kim and said happy anniversary. And that's pretty much what we did. So I think, that's going to wrap it up from here. I appreciate you guys so much for watching because without you, this podcast would not exist. There'd be no point in doing it. So, goodbye from Northwest Montana. I hope you see you next time. Thank you, guys. See you later.